Magga, the path leading to the cessation of suffering. Arrival at the triple gem dispels a dependence on fate and supernatural powers. When one knows suffering and its origin, and one recognizes the goal, which is the cessation of suffering, it is then time to engage in practice. When one sees clearly the goal to be reached, its attributes and its attainability, one practices to realize that goal accordingly. If one does not know what the goal is and in which direction to go, one will not know how to proceed. For this reason, in regard to the relationship between the four truths, it is appropriate for the path to be put at the end. Also, in regard to teaching, spiritual practice generally requires a lot of strength and energy. If practitioners do not recognize the value of the goal, they will lack willpower. And if they are convinced the practice is arduous, they may have a loss of heart or even refuse to proceed. Even if they engage with the practice, they will do so as if coerced, against their will or listlessly, and their progress will probably be fruitless. On the contrary, if one sees the value of the goal, one will be happy to put forth effort. The greater is the goal and the desire to reach it, the stronger is one's motivation for practice. When a person sincerely desires the goal, he or she will fight to achieve it, no matter how difficult the practice is to reach it. This is another reason why the Buddha mentioned cessation before the path, so that the listener sees the value of and develops a wish for cessation, generating an enthusiasm to learn the methods of practice and to apply them. When the Buddha revealed how cessation is truly a worthy goal, the listeners were determined to hear of the path and committed to applying it to practice. They resolved to follow the path and welcomed the hardships required to do so. When people search for the cause of suffering, they tend to attribute blame outwardly or look for things that are as far from their own sphere of responsibility as possible. Similarly, when people look for a remedy for suffering, they tend to look for things externally, to find some protection in order to release them from responsibility or to remove suffering on their behalf. In both cases, people are hiding from the truth, not daring to look at suffering and avoiding responsibility. This is similar to a person who flees from danger and looks for a place to bury his head in the sand and hide his face. He thinks he has escaped the danger, even though he is still surrounded by it. This behavior gives rise to a dependence on external things, say by beseeching what is considered holy, making propitiatory offerings, waiting for divine acts of power, or simply leaving things up to fate. Buddhism teaches that such things one is dependent on, or such resignation to fate, is not the way to security and safety, and it does not lead to a true deliverance from suffering. The correct way of dealing with suffering is to have firm confidence in the merits of the Triple Gem, to make the mind peaceful and strong, and to apply wisdom by looking at problems objectively, to see them as they truly are, and to solve them at their root causes. In other words, with confidence in the Triple Gem, one knows how to solve problems according to the Four Noble Truths, to know suffering accurately, to investigate and discover its causes, to recognize the end of suffering, which should be realized, and to develop the appropriate methods of dealing with suffering directly at its source, which lead to the realization of the goal. In sum, one develops the Eightfold Path. Practicing in this way leads to the true end of suffering, as confirmed by the Buddha. People in large numbers, threatened by danger, seek refuge in mountains, forests, and sacred groves and trees. But no such refuge is safe, no such refuge is supreme. Not by resorting to such a refuge is one freed from all misery. One who goes for refuge to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, who sees clearly with wisdom the Four Noble Truths, suffering, the origin of suffering, the transcendence of suffering, and the Noble Eightfold Path leading to the end of suffering. This indeed is a safe refuge. This indeed is the refuge supreme. By reaching such a refuge, one is freed from all misery. A recollection of the Buddha provides us with the confidence that every person is endowed with an intelligence and capability which can be trained or developed to perfection. We are all able to realize the truth, to arrive at the utter freedom from suffering, to transcend mundane phenomena, and to possess supreme virtues which even the Devas and Brahma gods revere. In this respect, the great teacher, the Buddha, acted as a guide and forerunner of those people who depend on the supernatural, know how to train themselves well. They will see that there is nothing which the gods or sacred forces are able to do which equals the virtuous deeds stemming from a well-cultivated human mind. The recollection of the Dhamma provides us with the confidence that the truth is a naturally existing phenomenon, and that all things exist according to causes and conditions. If one is able to discern things as they truly are, to apply this understanding in a beneficial way, to relate to things with insight, and to deal with them at their source, then one can solve problems in the best possible way. One will realize the truth and live an excellent life. The recollection of the Sangha provides us with the confidence that a virtuous community is founded on truth and is comprised of members who are free from suffering. Although they have arrived at varying degrees of spiritual accomplishment, they are united and equal in the face of Dhamma. Every person participates in building this community by understanding and practicing in accord with the Dhamma. If one lacks confidence in the Triple Gem, then one must depend on external things, like petitioning sacred forces and praying to divine beings. But if one has confidence in the Triple Gem, then one studies the way of bringing suffering to an end through insight into causes and conditions outlined in the Four Noble Truths. and one practices spiritual cultivation in accord with the Buddhist path. Path of the Noble Ones, self-mastery and mutual assistance. For people with strong faith who have complete confidence in the Triple Gem, neither external opinions nor the general vicissitudes of life, colloquially referred to as twists of fate, can make them waver. Their state of mind is similar to a person in good health and with a strong body. They are self-reliant at all times. They need not depend on external forces. They look to results from karma, from deliberate effort in line with causes and conditions. They have developed wisdom, clearly understand the principle of solving problems according to the Four Noble Truths, and they steadfastly follow the Noble Eightfold Path. Such people are said to have entered the stream of bringing suffering to an end. They have been trained and go in the direction of true liberation. They become members of the community of the Noble Ones, having reached the first stage of noble beings. Such persons are called stream enterers, sotapanna. On the contrary, the minds of those people who are still captivated, who spin around in the deluge of worldly currents, who are shaken by the winds of fortune, whose faith is still unsteady, and whose self-confidence is not grounded in the merits of the Triple Gem, resemble a person who is physically sick and ailing. They are not able to help themselves and must constantly rely on others. They feel strong when life is calm, but once a tempest sets in, they cannot support themselves. They then choose between enduring the mental anguish or else seek out some form of intense pleasure, like indulging in an intoxicating substance. Alternatively, they rely on sacred objects, seeking help from divine powers, or expect results from auspicious ceremonies or from fate, in order to escape their suffering or to derive some comfort and reassurance. They do not know the correct escape from suffering, and they do not possess the wisdom which perceives things as they really are. They are unable to transcend the worldly currents. When they conduct their lives, they fall into one extreme or another. If they don't veer towards the extreme of sensual indulgence and infatuation, they naively follow an oppressively austere way of life. They do not walk straight on the middle way. In Pali, the name for such a person is Putujana, an unawakened person. And if someone is devoid of wholesome qualities, is truly blind, is unable to distinguish between good and evil, lives simply by responding to craving, does not reflect on his actions, and is prepared to exploit others for selfish gain, he is referred to as a blind and foolish worldling, and Bala Putujana. If, however, a person recognizes wholesome qualities, hears the subtle call of the Noble Ones, begins to live a virtuous life, maintains moral standards consisting of the 10 wholesome courses of action, kusala, kamma, patta, or at least keeps the essential 5 precepts, he or she is referred to as a virtuous unawakened person, kalyana jana, or one who has heard the teachings of the noble ones, sutta vanta ariya savaka. This person is ready to commence the noble path. The practice for eliminating the causes of suffering is called the path because it resembles a road leading to the goal, and although this path is a single track, it consists of 8 factors. In order to reach the goal, these 8 factors must be mutually supportive and balanced. They must act in unison. To practice correctly and walk unerringly towards the goal relies on wisdom, which discerns things accurately and acts both to reveal and to guide. For this reason, the first factor of the path is right view, samadhi. Because the path is balanced and leads straight to the goal, it is referred to as the middle way, majjhima patipada. It does not deviate towards the 2 extremes. Those persons walking this path are neither obsessed with seeking things for personal gratification, infatuated with sensuality, nor do they err in the opposite direction by undertaking severe austerities and deliberately increasing suffering due to disillusionment or self-hatred. For practice in line with the path to commence and develop effectively, it relies on 2 causes or supports, which are referred to as the conditions for right view. First is the external or social factor of having good instruction by others, gosa, wholesome opinions, encouragement and influence by others. In particular, this refers to virtuous friends, kalyana mitta, for instance, parents, teachers, monks and honourable people who have achieved success through honest means, who have attributes worthy of emulation and respect, both those who live nearby and those who live far away. These individuals are able to teach, offer advice, and inspire people to develop an enthusiasm for goodness. By using faith and devotion as a medium, they foster correct understanding in people. Moreover, they urge and guide people to reflect on things according to the truth, independently of others. The second is the internal factor of wise reflection, yoniso manasikara, to be able to think and reflect skillfully, effectively and methodically, to analyze things in conformity with how they actually exist and in line with their causes and conditions. When these 2 factors exist to summon and support right view, one can expect with confidence that one's spiritual practice will proceed correctly. Other path factors will develop along with wisdom for one's own well-being and that of others, and one will advance towards the goal of Buddha Dhamma. Firm confidence in the Triple Gem, a knowledge of the 4 Noble Truths, and practice in accord with the Middle Way, the Eightfold Path, prevents or at least mitigates all kinds of incorrect responses to suffering or inappropriate means to solve problems. These incorrect responses take many forms. One may be deluded and muddled, resigning oneself to suffering and succumbing to despair and grief. One may use a strategy of evasion and self-deception, trying to forget suffering by immersing oneself ever deeper in sensual pleasures. One may depend on supernatural forces, pray for divine intervention, or resign oneself to fate. One may engage in immoral behaviour. One may vent frustration outwards by violating and disturbing others, or one may oppress or chastise oneself due to self-loathing and disillusionment. By walking the path supported by correct faith and established in probity, one acts favourably in a way that is beneficial to oneself and others. One responds to circumstances with fortitude and inner peace. One solves problems with clear awareness, intelligence, and effort, dealing with them in line with causes and conditions. And even in one's most unsteady moments, when one is not able to help oneself, one knows how to find virtuous friends who can encourage one's wholesome qualities and who can give advice to foster an understanding of causality so that one can address problems correctly. Although the responsibility vis-a-vis the path is bhavana cultivation, the development, training, bringing into being, undertaking, defining the path, Magga, as practice or Dhamma practice, can lead to an overly narrow understanding or even to a misunderstanding of this term. In fact, the term Magga encompasses the entire practical dimension of Buddhism. It is equivalent to the term Charya-dhamma, practical application, for it comprises the entire system of virtuous conduct. Another synonym for Magga is the term Brahmacharya, which is translated as the holy life or sublime life. The 8 factors of the path can be separated, elaborated on, and given a new shape depending on one's point of emphasis and consonant with the level of spiritual practice being addressed. Examples of this are the 10 wholesome ways of conduct, kusala kama pata, which are suitable for lay people and emphasize external actions more than internal matters, and the 7 stages of purity, Visuddhi, which focus on the highest goal of Buddhism and emphasize insight wisdom, Vipassana Panya.